Hello chess enthusiasts, my name is Miha and welcome to my chessrealm YouTube channel. So another interesting game from the recently ended Indian Championship. Seturman Panayappan Seturman won, by the way, and let's go to the 7th round duel between Iniyan and Venkatesh. Let's see what happened. Iniyan had white pieces and he started with d4, knight to f6, c4, e6, knight to c3, d5, bishop to g5, bishop to e7, and now e3, and we have queen's gambit declined in a little bit reversed move order. Now h6, attacking the bishop. Bishop goes back to h4, black castles king side, knight to f3, knight from b goes to d7, rook to c1, pretty much standard moves, and now c5. Black strikes the center, and white continues with the d pawn captures on c5, d pawn captures on c4. Now this pawn on c5 is going to be captured anyway, so white plays c6, demolishing pawn structure on black's queen side. B pawn captures on c6, bishop to c4, and now black continues with knight to d5, offering more material trade, and white says let's do it. Bishop captures on e7, queen recaptures, white castles king side and bishop to b7. Both sides have completed with the development, and white continues with queen to e2. White has a simple plan with bishop to a6, harassing black on the queen side. For example, after a random move, king to h8, then bishop to a6. If bishop captures, then queen recaptures. This pawn on c6 is under attack. There are ways to defend it, of course, but why simply hand over the initiative? So in the game, rook to b8 was played. Once this bishop is gone, then b2 pawn is under attack, so white cannot simply play bishop to a6 now. Instead, rook from f goes to d1. Rook from f goes to d8, releasing the pressure over the d file. And now h3, maybe creating an escape square just in case, or maybe even a waiting move, who knows. Anyway, black continues with queen to b4, preparing maybe capturing this pawn on b2 once this bishop is gone. So white plays a3, driving the queen away. Well, if black wanted to follow his original plan, he would have to play queen to b6, still keeping a queen on the b file, but no, queen to a5 was played. Knight goes to e4, and now c5, preventing this knight to d4 jump. In that case, white would totally dominate the center. And now knight jumps on d6. A very interesting move, targeting bishop on b7, one of the defenders of this knight on d5. After a random move, let's say a6, then knight captures a bishop on b7, rook recaptures, bishop captures on d5, e-pawn recaptures, rook recaptures, white is a pawn up, threatening to double the rooks along the d file. So rook to c8 would have to be played immediately, then knight to d2, preparing knight to e4, putting a lot of pressure on this lone pawn. It would be simply too much for black. So in the game, black has decided to remove the bishop. The best option would be to remove it to a8. But black decided to play bishop to c6. You will see soon why this was not the best option. e4 was played, attacking the knight. Well, believe it or not, knight doesn't have a lot of good squares. After, let's say, knight to f6, then b4 is a very unpleasant move, targeting the protector of this d4 square. If c-pawn captures on b4, then knight captures pawn on f7. of course, king has to recapture because defender of pawn on e6 is gone. And then another sacrifice, bishop captures pawn on e6. Of course, we have discovered attack on bishop on c6. Now you see why putting bishop on c6 was not a good idea. So after king captures bishop, instead of capturing, white plays knight to d4 check. King, let's say, to f7, and then knight captures bishop on c6, and we have a family fork. Yeah, in the end, black will have two knights for the rook, but pushing e pawn to e5 and then to e6, forking both king and the other knight is a serious threat. So white is much better here, if not totally winning. Okay, let's go back to our game. Black plays knight to f4, attacking the queen. Queen goes to e3, attacking the knight. Knight to g6, and you can guess what happened now. Knight captures pawn on e7. King, of course, has to recapture, or there goes our e6 pawn. And now white continues with rook to d6, attacking the bishop and the pawn also. Bishop to b5 was played, and now bishop captures pawn on e6 check. King goes to e7, attacking both rook and the bishop. Now maybe here the best option would be e5, defending the rook and then continuing with the attack, but white saw the things differently. Bishop captures on d7, discover attack on the knight. On g6, king captures rook on d6, and now rook to d1 check. Now here king has two options, either remove the king to c7 or e7. The best option would be king to c7. White can continue the attack with queen to c5 check. King to b7 is the only option, and then rook to d6, preparing bishop to c6, a deadly blow. Bishop cannot capture bishop, or there goes our queen. So knight to e7 would have to be played, preventing bishop to c6. But after bishop captures on b5, rook captures rook on d6, queen recaptures bishop, and queen captures knight. Well, white has a knight and two pawns for a rook, and white is going to capture additional pawns here on the king side. So white is much better, but still, to convert this advantage, he would need a lot of precision in the end game. Okay, let's go back to our game. So in the game, king to e7 was played. Now queen to c5 check. King goes to f7, avoiding direct check from rook to d6. So rook to d6 was played, preparing to capture this knight on g6. After a random move, let's say a6, then rook captures knight on g6. If king recaptures, then queen to f5 is checkmate. So knight goes to e7. Now queen to h5 check. Black has a few options on how to defend. If g6, then knight to e5 check. We have mate in 3. King to g8, rook to g6, knight to g6, queen to g6, and it's gonna be mate in the next move. If king to f8, then rook to f6 is a deadly blow. If g-pawn captures on f6, queen h6 check. If king g8, then bishop to e6 is checkmate. So after king to f7, knight to e5 check. F-pawn captures on e5, queen to e6 check, and we have mate in maximum 12 moves. I can't go through all the variations, but one variation is king to g7, queen to e7, check, king to h6, bishop to f5, white threatens queen to f6, mate in 2, and rook to f8, defending, then queen to h7, check, king g5, queen g6, king f4, and queen g3 is checkmate. Okay, let's go back to our game. So in the game, king to g8 was played. White continues with rook to h6, threatening rook to h8 with mate in 1. So g-pawn captures on h6, bishop to e6 check. After king to h7, we have knight to g5, mate in 3, but I'll leave it for you to find it. So king to g7 was played, queen to f7 check, king to h8, queen to f6, king h7, queen e7 check. After king g6 is queen f7, mate in 1. So king goes to h8, and now knight to e5 is the last nail in the coffin. Knight to g6, mate in 1 is the threat. If bishop to f8, protecting, then queen to f8, king h7, and queen g8 is checkmate. If rook g8, defending, then queen to f6 check, king ah7, bishop to f5 check, rook g6, queen to f7, king h8, and knight to g6 is checkmate. If, however, queen to e1 check, king to h2, queen e4, again defending this g6 square, then it's pretty much the same. Queen goes to f6 check, king to h7, bishop to f5 check, queen to f5, queen f5 check, king h8, queen f6, king g8, queen f7, king h8, and knight to g6 is checkmate. There are some other minor sub-variations, but the result is the same. Black is going to be checkmated. And realizing that all is lost, in this position, Marani Venkatesh resigned the game. So, I hope you liked this game. I hope you have learned something from it. If you have any questions, my email is below in the description. Of course, I invite you to visit my Instagram page. That's it for now, and see you soon.